Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask a question of Ms. Aurelia Koskinen. Older Americans are a popular target for scammers. One reason I am co-sponsor of the Empowering States to Protect Seniors from Bad Actors Act. This bill provides $10 million in grant money to state regulators to help protect seniors from fraud. Looking back on your experience, what are some of the red flags and your tips you would like to share with other seniors that may help them identify possible scammers?
When people call you on the phone and they ask you questions, do not answer them. If you have any confusion about it, go into your bank and talk to them in person. Do not give any information out on a telephone, such as social security numbers, online banking numbers, anything of any kind, because I have learned my lesson.
It's incredible that we find ourselves in a place where you have to really question everyone that calls our seniors. It's just a unnerving position for seniors to find themselves that literally, sincere people who are looking to be helpful and just to do the right thing have to rewire the way they see the world because of the scammers and frauds. It's a different kind of evil for those folks who take advantage of our seniors in vulnerable positions. Mrs. Pfahler, I was walking back from my banking hearing where I was asking questions and ran into Mrs. Collins, who said that you were simply spectacular. And she really found your testimony and your response to her questions to be illuminating, helpful, and the complexity of the scam, as she heard you articulate it, was one that was just unbelievable from her perspective. So she was really impressed, and so you may have answered this in part based on my thoughts with her, but I do think that seniors benefit from hearing your tips. It's a similar question that I asked just now. I would love to hear your answers to how do we help seniors in such a situation. Yours was so complex. How do we find those red flags and warnings? What tips would you provide?
Well, one thing that's really important, and I kind of alluded to it with the end of my last statement, but I think that, let me give an example. USAA is a federal bank that I belong to, like I said, for 41 years. I never talked to the same person over the more than 50 calls I made except for one time. His name was Jim. Never. I always had to go through what had happened. They had notes. They either had to read them, or they had no questions, or they couldn't get me to the person. When USAA sent me a letter, it was signed by a man, and that I could file for bankruptcy. I tried to get a hold of that man. They wouldn't put me through to him or his office. I said, does he exist? And they said, well, we think so. I never was able, because USAA comes out of Texas.
Yes, ma'am.
I never was able to talk to anybody, to know anybody. So I was really, when I got back and was able to function, I was really able and happy to be able to go to a small bank, and it's Wells Fargo, it's a huge bank, but a small banking bank, and they took me right in, they talked to me, they introduced me to the people that would be handling my account, and when I had the problem where I was so depressed and I didn't know what to do with this loan I couldn't pay off, they got me into the people that handle your funds, my retirement funds. And the two of them together talked to me and determined that my mental health would be much better if I could get this loan paid off. And what would be the best way for me to do that without causing the most loss? Because I lost more money than $20,000 by canceling an IRA. And to have that kind of care from a financial institution was what I'd been looking for. USAA before I touted as a great, great place. But you need someone that knows you and listens to you, and they need to get their act together.
Yes,
and there are millions of USAA members that aren't going to be met, their needs aren't going to be met if they don't get their act together. And they did not listen to me at all.
Thank you very much. And with my little time that I have left, I want to follow up a question with Dr. DeLima, because it really is my next question, which is the mental health consequences and your research on that. Can you just spend maybe 30 or 40 seconds giving me the synopsis?
Right. So I've had the privilege to read consumer complaints on fraud through my special government agency position with the Federal Trade Commission and also just in interviews with victims. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've had to take breaks. I've had to just step aside, do something else, go for a walk around campus because it's painful. You know, people talk about their marriages collapsing when the partner found out, and they talk about depression, and they talk about trying to take their own lives. So we shouldn't just think about financial crimes as being, oh, these kind of small impacts. The impacts are as severe as victimization by physical and sexual assault.
Thank you very much. That's powerful. My goodness.
Thank you, Ranking Member Scott. I'll turn